Hey everyone, this video is about COVID and it's just sort of a rant. So I'll probably do this in a couple of steps and might even change up the way I do things a little bit. Maybe it'll be a little bit longer, but hopefully it'll stick with me here. So at any rate, and hopefully the cat won't bother us. So at any rate, I'm going to start with statistics. So if you just type in COVID-19 statistics into Google, you'll see this chart, basically, if you switch it to worldwide, and you can look at it country by country, but if you select worldwide, you can kind of see the waves, right? So right now, back around January, mid-January, you can see 7-day average of new cases at 761,000. And then around the beginning of May, 870,000. And you can see this is what they're talking about when they're talking about the waves, more or less. You could kind of call these smaller waves, but really if you look at the data overall, and again, this is worldwide, you can break it down country by country. You can see that it's done down here with recoveries and deaths. But you can see the waves here, and you can see the trajectory that we're headed on. And basically this right here is the Delta variant, right? I'm saying this because there are still so many people who haven't gotten vaccinated for, frankly, kind of just bad reasons. I got my second vaccination today, my second shot today. I've got kind of a headache, but it's all right so far. I'm pretty sure I already had COVID, and I think I had it a couple of times, but I'm not certain. I don't know, because I didn't get tested. Because each time I thought I had it, we were already either in lockdown or it was summer, so I was already sitting around at home. But this is more about people getting vaccinated. So you can see we're heading up in this, what I would look at to be a third major wave anyways, worldwide. And we're already at 7-day average of 600,000 people. Now, when you look at the Delta variant, these are the R naught values. So this is about how transmissible COVID is. So this was in NPR. And I'll try to remember to put these links down below so people can look at them if they want to. But when you look at the original strain, what the R naught value is it's how many people you will infect if you take away other variables. So if you consider that no one has any immunity and that's sort of like in a perfect system. So it's a statistical thing. So if you look back at HIV or SARS, one person is likely to infect 4 other people before they realize it and take some sort of precautions. If you look at the original strain of COVID, it was 3 people. This was in the news recently because they kind of compared COVID-19 Delta to chickenpox, saying that it was equally as transmissible. It's not, it's about 7/10. But with this Delta strain, they're saying that roughly 7 people will be infected from you being infected. If nothing else happens, if you're not vaccinated, if you don't wear a mask, etc. If you don't follow any of the rules and do what you're being asked to do, you're probably going to infect 7 people. With the chickenpox, it's 10 people. Measles and mumps are 12 and 18. The original COVID-19 strain was only 3 people. So if you thought that first wave was bad, and even the second wave, consider the fact that while we do have lots of people vaccinated right now, this was less than half as transmissible. Meaning, if you were to go about your daily routine here and ignore all of the warnings and calls for vaccination and mask and all that, you would have gotten 3 people sick. Now you would have gotten 7. So the question is, okay, well, how is it that this is 630,000 7-day average and this is only 600,000? Well, for one thing, not enough time has gone by, not the same amount of time. You can see this wave is really from October to, let's say, January. And here, this wave, we're talking about June through August. So a little more time for that first wave. But also, we've got a huge number of people who are now vaccinated who were not vaccinated then. That's what's stopping people from getting Delta, or from those who do get it, oftentimes don't get the symptoms, or the symptoms aren't as bad, or maybe they last 2 or 3 days, but not 2 or 3 weeks. Or maybe they last 2 or 3 weeks, but they don't send someone to the ICU because it doesn't become a lung infection, it doesn't become something worse. So the reason that this isn't as bad as it could be is because of vaccinations and masking and social distancing as well, which we were doing then as well. but largely because of vaccinations. That's it, period. Because it's more than twice as transmissible when you look at the data. Again, this is data from NPR. The next sort of statistical point to look at is deaths, the death rate for vaccinated versus unvaccinated people. And this is just some of the states. I mean, we can do show all. But essentially, if you are unvaccinated, you have a 48 times higher risk of dying, straight up. And that doesn't only apply to you as a person, but also other people who are around you. And it also takes into account, of course, kids, people who can't be vaccinated, people with immunosuppression, immunity issues, like people with HIV or AIDS who might not be able to get the vaccine. I'm not actually sure if people with AIDS can't, but that type of thing where they have an immunity system problem, and so they therefore may not be able to get vaccinated. People with things like young kids with leukemia and stuff like that. People who are going through treatments for other stuff. And if you just look at the hospitalization rate, that's 75 times higher as well. So this is the average of all the states. I'm from New York, so let's look at New York. Where is it here? Am I missing New York somehow? I don't know, maybe there's not data for it. I'm not sure about that one. But anyway, let's just look at one of them, New Jersey. 7,948, 106 times higher risk for unvaccinated people to be hospitalized, 50 times higher risk for unvaccinated people to die. And the other thing that this doesn't show with this hospitalization rate, so if you don't need to be hospitalized, great, wonderful, and you get it. If you die, terrible, but you're not being hospitalized. If you are hospitalized for a long period of time, you also have to consider what resources are being taken away from other people who have issues that they need to deal with. People who are having the flu, or people who break a leg, or whatever, who now can't get the level of care that they should be able to get because you're taking up a bed unnecessarily, when you could be 126 times less at risk of being hospitalized, ending up being hospitalized. Not really statistics, but kind of related to, well, definitely related to vaccines, the whole anti-vaxxer thing. So a big part of the anti-vax movement came from this jackass, Andrew Wakefield, who was a doctor, but no longer is a doctor, and who claimed that the MMR vaccine caused autism, which it never did. It was completely debunked. In fact, the study was withdrawn, and the guy lost his license as well. You can read this article if you want to. But the guy lost his license because it was bullshit. It's a matter of, what do they call it? Correlation versus causation. What this guy found was that people would, young folks would start to show the signs of autism right around the same time that they would get their vaccines. So those two things correlate in time. They happen around the same time, but that doesn't mean that one causes the other. It would be like if a car accident happens in Japan right now and I trip and fall, me saying that I tripped and fell because the car accident happened in Japan. They happen at the same time, but it doesn't mean a damn thing. They're not related whatsoever. One doesn't cause the other. And that's what this guy kind of just ruined his whole life and career by trying to claim. One of the other things is mercury in vaccines. Mercury is in a form as far as I know, in the US at least, it's only available still in the flu vaccine in a form that doesn't impact a person's body. Mercury itself, you can think of it like sodium. Sodium as an element is super unstable. If you put it into water, it bursts into flames and basically explodes. And yet sodium, NaCl, when you put it in with chlorine, makes table salt, and you can eat it, and it's good, right? So the mercury that was in vaccines was never proven to cause, certainly not autism, and to not cause any other major issues, but even then it was taken out of nearly all vaccines. The flu vaccine still is available with mercury, but to my understanding there's also a version of it that's available without mercury. So even though that one still has that, nasty sounding element in it. First off, that element hasn't been proven to do anything negative in the formulation that it's in. And secondly, the flu vaccine's available without it anyways. Just to be safe, as far as I'm aware, most governments have taken all mercury out of vaccines, especially the ones that they give kids and so on. So basically the anti-vax idea was built on lies right from the beginning. Let me see here. I want to go to another section here. Yeah, I look at it kind of like this. So the next thing that people talk about is their personal responsibilities and their freedoms. And I kind of think of it as like this old trope, a cliche of a poor helpless woman tied to train tracks, right? Or man or whatever. A poor helpless person tied to train tracks. You don't have any responsibility to help that person, period. That's true. You can just walk right on by, right? You have the freedom to walk on by and not do a goddamn thing. But it comes down to how you were raised. Were you raised to believe that you probably should go and untie that person from the train tracks just because it's probably the right thing to do? Hell, even if they deserve to get run over by a train, because that's not the way that a person should have to die. Or were you raised to think, not my problem, don't try and take away my freedom by telling me that I should go untie this person from the train tracks? No one's trying to take away your freedoms. But what people are trying to do by telling you to wear masks and to socially distance and to get the vaccine is to limit harm to others. And that's sort of the thing with freedoms. So think of it like, I don't know, you can kind of think of it like the Second Amendment. People in the US have the freedom to own guns, but they don't have the freedom to shoot somebody in the fucking head. And they have a responsibility to treat those guns with respect and treat people around them with respect and so on. Part of it's social responsibility, part of it has to do with the laws. There's no laws saying that you have to get vaccinated or wear a mask or socially distance. But you do have somewhat of a responsibility simply to humanity to try to do those things because it's better overall. Honestly, it reminds me, I'm going to just pull up another one here. It reminds me of World War II and this whole idea of we can do it and Rosie the Riveter. And the thing was at that time, women didn't have a responsibility to go and work in factories and to keep the industrial might of the USA going, but they chose to do it because they felt that they needed to do it to improve the country, to improve the nation, to help out in any way that they could. So it wasn't seen as infringing on people's freedoms. You weren't infringing on some housewife's freedom if that housewife chose to go get a job. It's still a choice, and a lot of them did it. But they did it because they knew it was the right thing to do. No one is trying to take away your freedoms by saying that you should get vaccinated. You should get vaccinated because it's the right thing to do based on the statistics that you just saw here. Because you're going to spread the Delta variant, if you get it, to more than twice as many people as the original COVID strain, and you're gonna end up clogging up hospitals and possibly dying and killing other people. So as for the whole idea of your personal freedom, that was something that was completely politicized. That's it, period. It was this defiant, I'm a wannabe rebel type of thing, and it's just bullshit at this point. And it's bullshit because we're going into the third wave, and the only reason that that's not off this chart is because of people getting vaccinated. So for all the people who have chosen not to, you're welcome. The people who have chosen to are saving your ass and the people around you, your friends and your family. We're helping save their ass. You've done nothing, and there's really no reason for it other than just this I'm going to do what I want kind of attitude. And it really seems like it's more pervasive in the US than it is in other places. But I saw a thing where people are dealing with it in the UK too, recently, where people were saying that they didn't want to follow whatever rule it was that the UK was trying to put on the people because they just want to be able to say no. And it's ridiculous. Personally, I refuse to go to the doctors unless I'm like dying, right? But there's a big difference between something like that when I'm not contagious, when I'm not getting other people sick, or when I'm just sitting at home doing nothing, versus somebody going about their day like normal, possibly spreading a disease that's super transmissible and could easily kill the person that you come in contact with. There are personal choices like owning a gun that don't hurt other people. There are other personal choices like shooting someone in the face that do. And there's a big difference. There's a vast chasm in between those two choices. And at this point, seeing the information that we have, it's either stupidity or an absolute lack of caring and responsibility that's causing people to not go and get vaccinated, wear masks, socially distance, simply follow the rules. Yeah, everyone's suffering, you're suffering too. Get over it. I got a headache now because of the second shot. I can deal with that. You probably can as well. And for those people who legitimately can't get vaccinated because they have some sort of health issue, you're helping to protect them. So it literally goes back to the woman on the train tracks idea of where you need to help the people who can't help themselves. And you can do that by getting vaccinated, wearing masks, and socially distancing. And with the Delta variant, there's just no reason not to. And the last thing I want to put up here is this quote here from the Bible. You can see it's John 9:41, at least from the New International Version, and you can read it yourself. And I put this up here because I've heard from several people. On the one hand, folks primarily from the U.S. who said, oh, well, if it's my time to go, then, God says it's my time to go and I'll just die. And people here in Turkey where I am say, oh, if it's my time to go, Allah says I should go, so I'm just going to die. And so maybe this one doesn't apply directly to the folks here, but I think the idea is pretty much the same. And this verse says, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. You can see now. If you couldn't before, you can see what you're doing by not getting vaccinated, not following these simple rules, these simple suggestions that people are asking you to follow. And it has nothing to do with the left wanting to control you or taking away your freedom. This could have probably been stopped back here, or maybe back here, if people had gotten vaccinated when they had the opportunity, had worn masks, and had socially distanced the way that they should have, rather than going out and getting drunk at the bar the first minute it opens up with no mask on and yada yada because of your freedoms. It's absolute bullshit. Your freedoms cannot take away other people's freedoms. That's just anarchy. That's lawlessness and recklessness and stupidity at this point. So for those of you who think that God's got your back, just read that. Remember that one, if you would. One last quick thing. I always think it's hilarious, the conspiracy theories that come out, like how Bill Gates wants to microchip us. And just to put this in a way that hopefully folks can understand, Bill Gates has billions of dollars and can do whatever he wants, which could include microchipping you if he really wanted to. But you have to ask yourself, are you special enough of a person that Bill Gates wants to know what you're doing all the time and wants to follow you and watch you? Because I sure as hell am not. If Bill Gates were tracking me, he'd see me watching TV, using the bathroom, going to the cafe. That's pretty boring. That would be like handing a 4-year-old a Golf Digest. 4-year-old doesn't want a Golf Digest. Bill Gates doesn't want to track me. And my guess is Bill Gates probably doesn't want to track you either. So as for those conspiracy theories, get over yourself. You're not Jesus, you're not Muhammad, you're not Neo, you're not the one, and nobody wants to track you that carefully. And if they do, you probably did something illegal to deserve it, and those people tracking you are probably the police. Apart from that, if you're worried about Bill Gates microchipping you, get rid of your phone right now, because you all have a microchip in your goddamn pocket as it is. Facebook and Google and whatever, they're all following you all day long, everywhere you go. It's why they can suggest ED pills for you when they know that you've been looking up ED pills or talking about ED pills. It's because they're always listening to you and they always know right where you are. So if you're really worried about your privacy, throw your phone out the goddamn window. Until then, go get a vaccine, because at this point, it is, you can't even claim ignorance. It's willful disrespect towards the other people around you who might not be able to get a vaccine, or who might have people around them who are really susceptible to the virus, whether they've had the vaccine or not. It is really just, you're not doing your responsibility towards humanity by not actively trying to seek out a vaccine, by not wearing masks and social distancing at this point. Because we are in another wave, and again, the vaccinated people and the people who have been wearing masks and the people who have been trying to distance are the ones keeping that wave down. That's it, period. I'll put these things up here, and I'm sure people will complain about the New York Times, and I don't really care. You can look up NPR and Medical News Today, and you can find the statistics all over the place. Most of this belief comes from Johns Hopkins University. I'd have to double check that, but I think it's from Johns Hopkins. The information is out there, and if you're choosing not to follow it, there's no conspiracy. There's politicians don't want your whatever. They want your money and your vote, and that's it. And so when you hear, especially folks on the right, but other idiots too, talking about how it's your freedom and yada yada, they're just trying to get your vote. They don't give a good goddamn about your freedom. They want your vote and your money, and that's it. And same thing on the left. The people on the left want your vote and your money. But I think they're kind of clued into the fact that if you're dead, you can't vote for them. That's something that the right doesn't seem to have figured out quite yet. Hopefully someday. Anyways, that's my rant. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. I'll put these links down below. Go get vaccinated. Wear a fucking mask. Distance. Do what you can do. Because as somebody who I'm pretty sure has had COVID, it was really unpleasant the 2 times I think I had it. And somebody who's got a headache now from the second shot. If Bill Gates is watching me, boy, he is just far more of a boring person than I had realized. But I'm guessing that he's not. And so it's absolutely worth it, just for the off chance that other people aren't going to die. Even though I know it's not going to fucking kill me, I'm perfectly fine. My immune system is great. But at least it won't kill somebody that I care about, or somebody near me, or somebody who I hate. Anyways.